What's up guys, welcome back to part 2 of the new Excelsior roof build. If you haven't seen the first part, I'm going to link it right here in this little card, so go back and watch that first because this one's going to be picking right up where the last one left off. And you're not going to know what's going on if you haven't seen that, so go check that one out first. Otherwise, let's jump right back into part number 2. Alright, we are making great progress already. In the last part, we got our template cut out. This is going to allow us to know where exactly we need to build up the clay to right there, and it's looking awesome. I'm really enjoying that shape. I may make some adjustments to it as we go along, but for right now, it's looking perfect. So now we're ready to start laying up our clay, and this is both the funnest part, but also the longest part. It can be a little frustrating sometimes if you have any particular areas of the clay that's just not working right. You got to just continue to work at it until you get it to sit just the way you want. Now, as I briefly described in the last part, the way that the clay is going to be built up on this is obviously going to be higher in this area here. As you can see, the template is a bit higher here, and then it kind of tapers down on both ends toward the front and the back, and then it's going to taper off as it gets closer to the side or the A-pillar right here, and it will follow this kind of general shape. So it's not just going to be this tall all the way across. It's going to be a nice taper, really nice, smooth, organic design, and that's really going to lend itself nicely to the naturally organic shape of the Z33. Now, when you're doing any kind of clay work, it's really going to benefit you to have some tools at your disposal for shaping purposes. It's not absolutely necessary, and in theory, you could do this without any tools, with just your hands, but I'm going to tell you right now, having the right tools makes a huge difference, and it's going to save you a ton of time. So I have everything from like a little roller that I will use to kind of flatten it out. I have this type of deal, which is probably my workhorse, and this is for shaving, you know, shaving down the shape, getting rid of any excess bulk, stuff like that. I have two versions of this. Kind of these two right here are my workhorses that I use for my primary shaping purposes. And then of course I have like some blades that help me to slice if I need to take off any real big chunks or anything like that. Got another type of roller here. And so just a nice little bevy of different tools to help me do my shaping. Now thankfully this is going to be a pretty simple design. I'm purposely not going too crazy on this just for the sake of time and headache. I don't want to end up spending, you know, 2-3 weeks on this thing trying to get it right. I've already spent so much time doing the rest of the car, and I really don't want to get stuck spending too much time on this roof, so I'm purposely keeping this design simple, so I probably won't need most of these tools, but I will definitely be using these and my roller and maybe the blades for some large pieces of removal after I get it all built up. But again, if you plan on doing any clay work, you can go to any craft hobby store or even Amazon.com and get yourself a simple clay sculpting set. It'll run you 15-20 bucks, and it will be well worth your while, totally worth it. And I will link in the description a link to a nice set of tools for you guys to use so that you can try this yourself if you plan on getting into clay sculpting like this. All right, so we have our clay ready to go here. As I'd mentioned in the last part, I flattened it out ahead of time so it's really easy to apply. It's going to be a lot better than trying to pick out of a huge glob of clay, so just a little prep ahead of time goes a long way on this. The other thing too is a heat gun will really help you tremendously with this type of clay. This is the type of clay that never dries out completely. It always stays moist, which is great, but it does harden up really hard when it gets cold. So it's very sensitive to temperature. If it's a little colder out, you're going to have a really hard time getting it to be malleable. So a heat gun is going to help you with that a lot. So take small sections at a time and then heat them up. It's another part of the reason why I flatten it out, because it heats up very quickly when it's flat. It can heat through from the top side down to the bottom side, and within about 10-15 seconds with a heat gun, I am ready to go on that. So if you don't have a heat gun, pick one of these up. You can use like a blow dryer. That will also work. It's going to take a little bit longer because it doesn't get as hot as this, obviously. But heat gun, if you got one, would be great. If not, I'll link one in the description below for you guys. Pick that up too. Anytime you're using this clay, this is going to help you. All right, so as far as actually starting with the clay buildup, there's really not much to it. Just start putting clay in the position. The first thing you want to do is just get a buildup going. You're going to be shaping it and defining it as you go along, so don't worry about that at first. Just get the clay in the section where you want it to be, and then you'll start to focus on details and stuff a little later on. So for us, we're going to start building in this back section right here to start building up this weight here, and then as we go, I'll be adding less and less and less as we get down, because that's going to end up getting shaved down anyways. So I'm not going to start here. I'm going to start over in this direction and just start building it up. Little personal tip too for you guys: whenever you start doing clay work like this, you're going to be here for a minute, so get your tunes. It's going to make a huge difference. At least it does for me. I get a good like funk mix going, or like a wave mix. It gets me really in the drive, so that's going to help you a lot. Just a little personal tip for you guys: get your tunes going. Okay guys, after about 3 hours, I have just finished the first part of the clay buildup here. You can see I've got it really nicely shaped. I made sure it's as smooth as I can possibly get it. And we have a really nice shape right there. And our wall is intact and everything, so we're going to go ahead and start building up on the opposite side of the wall right there to create the connecting piece down through the center of the roof. You can see I left a good, at least a 1-inch area of space where the fiberglass is going to come directly down onto the roof. all the way around, and in the back it's actually more like 3 inches right here, so it's going to come all the way down and fiberglass all the way up to the back of the roof section right there. About 3 hours of total time it took me to build up and then do my shaping. As I've mentioned to you guys before, when it comes to doing clay sculpting like this, you really don't want to focus too much on the small details at all. Just focus primarily on your shape and your size, because when you fiberglass the clay, you're going to lose any really tiny little small details that you try and put in there. So it's really not worth it to spend the time to try and get it completely detailed in the clay stage. But again, you want to make absolutely sure that you have your shape dialed in and the right size, because once you fiberglass that, that's the size it's going to be. You can always just refine in all of your little fine details in the fiberglass, but you know, don't waste your time trying to put them in the clay, because they're not going to translate in through the fiberglass. Now with something like this, it's pretty much just shape and size. So there's not much detail to this. That makes it easy for me. I don't have to do any detail anyways, but do take your time making sure it's nice and smooth and it's the correct size that you want it, and you should be good to go. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and start creating this back section right here just behind the paper template. It's going to be a nice kind of a graduated, like a little mini hill that's going to go down and connect into the centerpiece right here. We're going to be leaving the center exposed. We don't need to do anything right there. The fiberglass is just going to connect directly over onto the other hump on the other side, but we do want to create a nice little connection piece. We don't just want to leave it flat on the inside, because that's definitely not very attractive. So we have to create that little graduation down to the centerpiece of the roof. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on that right now. Okay, so as you can see, we just finished up doing the backside of the passenger side hump, and it's looking really, really good. What I decided to do is add a extra inch. You can see here's the original paper template, that line in there. Went ahead and decided to add an extra inch horizontally before I went ahead and started the graduation down toward the roof. And I thought that looked better as opposed to a really sharp decline right from where the template ends. I thought it looked nice to give it just a little bit of extra space at its highest point. I didn't come up any higher from the template. I left it horizontally the same, but I just gave it a little bit of extra width. As I step back a little bit to the rear 3/4 view right here, you can really see how aggressive this hood design, or roof design rather, is going to be. At first I was kind of thinking it's a little too tall, but actually as I continued to refine it and get it shaped up, I think it's really awesome, because I wanted it to be aggressive because the rest of the kit is so aggressive. I didn't want to be too subtle with it, but I also didn't want to be too ridiculous, like I said at the beginning of the first part. So I think we're right in the target zone with this shape right here. So a couple of things I want to point out at this point when you're doing your sculpting like this: just make sure that your edges are really nice and flush. When you're doing something like this, it doesn't have to be perfect. You can feel a little ridge, but make sure it's really flush so that when you go up to fiberglass, you're not going to get any air pockets trapped in the edges around here. It's not going to be a huge deal, but the more flush you can get it, the better. And I made sure to very carefully even this whole back section out. I got it really nice rounded right here, and then it's really nice and smooth. And I did that really with the combination of the scraper to really can remove a lot of excess bulk, and the roller, just back and forth one after the other, over and over and over again. I probably spent 2 hours alone just getting that backside really nicely shaped and refined. So take your time with it and you'll get the shape that you want. It does take time. Clay can be frustrating sometimes, but if you keep working at it, you'll get through it. All right guys, so that's it for part number 2. Now the next step is going to be basically duplicating the exact thing that we just did on the passenger side over to the driver's side. So in the next part, we're going to get started right away with doing the packing taping, just like we did when we started here, and getting all my clay ready, and then we should just be good to go. Probably not going to be filming too much of the process of doing the sculpting on the other side, because you guys just saw the way I did it here, and it's going to be exactly the same thing. So next part should be fairly quickly, probably even moving into the fiberglassing, then we'll keep on rocking. I'm thinking we're going to be able to get through this series within 4 videos, so that would be very cool. If you guys have any questions up to this point on sculpting the clay or anything at all, go ahead and leave them in the comment section below. I will help you out as best I can. Again, I'm not a pro at this. This is just something I've been doing for a long time in one capacity or the other. So I'm happy to help if I can. So go ahead and leave any questions or comments or anything in the comment section below, and I'd be happy to hook up with you guys. All right, so thank you guys so much for watching this. Stay tuned for part number 3. It'll be releasing in a sequence. I plan on releasing this sequence over the course of about a month once they're all done. So hope you guys will enjoy keeping up with this. I'm going to do 1 part every single week. So stay tuned, and you guys will be able to see it as it develops. Peace out, and God bless.